All right, everyone, welcome back for another episode of A Desire to Inspire. Today, I'm actually really fired up about the guest that I have on the show today. We actually met here in Vegas about a month ago, almost exactly, and had an instant connection, talked for what was about 15 minutes to start, but nothing but light bulbs were going off. And now I have the opportunity to have her here on the show today. Her name is Elizabeth Stern. She's amazing. Thank you, Elizabeth, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Manny. I'm really excited to talk to you today.
You just got back from the Bahamas, so you're probably still feeling real Caribbean and tropical. So I want to start off by saying thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today and to share your voice and offer up all kinds of insight and wisdom and just overall guidance. And what you're going to be talking about, I'm super excited about because nobody really thinks about this when it comes to life. So I appreciate you, and you're a rock star. Thanks for being here.
Happy to be here.
Cool. So I want to really paint the frame for people. And I always usually start off with this question. It always is, who is Elizabeth Stern, from your mouth in your words, so that we can have the fullest understanding of really your journey, honestly, up to this point.
Sure. I'm happy to share with you my journey. I grew up in Spokane, Washington, went to college and graduate school in California. And my senior year of college, my best friend and roommate passed away from a brain tumor. And that was a life-changing event for me because she wanted to make sure that by the time she passed away, that she had left a mark, that she knew she had been here, she had mattered, and that she had shared what little you really have in terms of wisdom by the time you're 22. And that was an interesting challenge for both of us to go through. It was a time when, the internet was not available. And we went to places like faith healers to try to understand what, spirit healers, angel healers, anything you can imagine. And it was my first journey and first experience with trying to understand what it meant to create a legacy and help someone do that. And it took a lot of self-reflection on both our parts. And then I came to New York after graduate school to work in finance, which is totally not thinking about your legacy. It's thinking about how you make money and what is the value of money and what's the value of time. And that one question actually ended up being a pretty important one for me because time is your most valuable asset. Without it, there's really nothing. It's time, it's your health, and understanding that you have an opportunity to participate. So finance, made life relatively comfortable for me, but it didn't fulfill me. And I started working with not-for-profits on governance and all sorts of issues, which led me to working with a few individuals who really wanted to reshape their philanthropy to reflect their values. In doing that, that's when I started to really understand that philanthropy is not about the money that you have. It's about your legacy. And you don't need money to create a legacy. You need a vision of who you are or what you want to reflect, how your journey through life affected other people. Because at the end of the day, what people remember is how you made them feel. They don't remember the stuff that you gave them. They remember the feelings and the connection that you had with them. And that's really important. And that led me to really, in the last few years, become extremely passionate about people understanding that you live your legacy every single day.
I love that. One of the first conversations that we had, that 15-minute conversation, was about that connection that I think a lot of the time people are missing out on. And there's so much to this legacy thing, and I'm excited to dive into it. But you made a great point about self-reflection. And I think in that, you really learn about who you are. And for you almost too, there's something that, I don't know if you caught this, but you said you started in finance and that really wasn't what your overall mission was, but it ultimately led you to finding the philanthropic causes through that got you to this point today. So let's imagine that we are starting to plan our legacy. Where do you start? How do you start? What's the process in that?
So again, it requires a lot of self-reflection, but you have to think about what in a person's mind, because for every single person it's different, but what is a life well lived? So if you think about what a person imagines at the end of their life, what it would have looked like, what they wanted to have represented, and then you reverse engineer, that gives you your path that you need to walk in order to create that and have that impact that you think you want today in order for that to be realized. And I often start people with a couple of, with one central question, which is, and all it does is it's a starting point for reflecting on what's really important to you. And I always suggest that people never answer it immediately, that they wait and reflect.
Right.
And the question is, you are in perfect health. You have all the financial resources you could ever need, desire, want. So you can do anything, and you are in perfect health. However, you only have 30 days left to live. How are you going to spend your time? When you think about that question and you break it into parts, you have 30 days. How is that going to, what are you going to do with that time? How's it going to change the people around you that you care about? How's that going to make them feel? What do you want them to feel? That's a really important aspect of determining what your legacy might be, because it gives you just a framework. It's just a question to start the process of, who am I? What is my purpose? What is my life meant? What do I love doing? What do I love sharing with my family, my friends, my community? How do I like to give back? How would I want to share those 30 days in order to honor all the things that I've always thought, said were important to me?
So what do you find are the three most common answers that you get upon asking that question?
I don't have any common answers. I
Really?
mean, they have varied so widely from people feeling that, or saying that they would go to some warm place and gather, that's easy to get to, and gather all their family, friends, and the community that they cared about, and pay for them to come stay and talk and reflect, and just spend those 30 days sharing all the funny things, every aspect of their lives they would share with those people in that 30-day period.
So let me ask you this question. Why do you think that people put this off until it's too late? What do you think it is that prevents them from figuring this out and deciding to do it now?
Well, so most people, as soon as you say the word legacy, they assume it's the end of their lives and you have to have money, you have to have done certain things. And really, that has nothing to do with it. But remember what I said at the beginning, it's the end of their lives. So they're presuming that they're having to look at the end of their life, that they're dying. And nobody likes to think about death, or, that you won't be around tomorrow. But one of the most important things to realize is that none of us know how long we're going to be here. Every day is a different day, and something could always happen. But thinking about how you want your life to be reflected in your family and your friends helps you plan, and it gives you it takes away the fear, because the biggest thing is everybody has a fear of death. So they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to deal with it. But if you realize that your legacy can change as much as you do every single day, because you're still here. Nothing is written in stone until it is.
Right. Right.
So you can always change. I tell people as I work with them that to remember that you can only process information that you are able to understand and reflect on at a moment in time. The information that you might get 15 minutes later might change a decision that you made, but it's already passed. And that you have to live in the moment. So don't worry about, don't beat yourself up over things in the past. Think about how you can mitigate those or improve upon. If there's somebody that, you've got a bad relationship with for whatever reason, clean it up. And I always think it's so much more powerful. Every relationship takes two people. So be the big person. Say, I want to, I acknowledge that we both had misunderstandings, but I really would like, and I hate the word but and I want to change the texture of our relationship so that we can be comfortable with each other, that sort of thing. Parent-child relationships are really complicated. I have worked with a lot of families, and the biggest issue or concern that they need to remember, and it goes back to how you make people feel, is respect. It's really important to always start the discussions with people that no judgment. I have complete respect for whatever your perspective is, because it's most likely going to be different than mine.
Right, right.
I have this, I think I told you at some point when we were talking, that I have this thing that I do in New York City, which does reflect my legacy, and which I now have a whole bunch of people that I've connected with here, just, through alumni events or other conferences, that have been emailing me saying, oh my God, I tried your subway, conversation, and I learned so much about my fellow subway riders. It was fun. One of the big things about fear, and one of the things that I'm very concerned about in our country, is that there's so much fear, and fear creates an inability to have a positive impact on your environment, which is part of your legacy.
Right.
And so I talk to people on the subway every day. I compliment people on what they're wearing, their makeup, their shoes, and that goes for men and women. And it has an instantaneous effect of making the positive energy that I have come out for them, and it changes the texture of the subway ride, because everybody becomes positive. They look at the person's shoes or their clothing. This one young man that I met, he had these incredible shoes on, and they were kind of, more traditional, probably 30 or 40-year-old sort of lace-up men's shoes, but they had been doctored. And I complimented him on his shoes, and he just said, he was like, oh my God, thank you so much. They were my grandfather's. They just happened to fit. He passed away about a year ago, and I really loved the shoes, and I sort of fixed them up, and no one's noticed. And I said, well, they are very cool, and pretty soon all the guys were looking at his shoes and saying, hey, cool guy, it's fun. And that's the kind of thing that is, if people really talk to each other, they wouldn't be afraid of each other. And that goes back to how you create a legacy. You talk to people.
So much there. That's so awesome. And I want to get back to that complimenting and doing the little things and keeping it simple. And you might hear build a legacy, and like you said, think of all these massive results that you have to get. But no, it can be what you just said. It's the basic of all basic. And we were just talking about a few minutes ago, foundation of life. But I want to go back to the death thing. And I know this better than anybody for a few reasons. In fact, I stress this concept more than anybody, because people are always asking me, like, how do you get so motivated? How do you stay inspired? And I go, the fact that I'm going to die inspires me. I mean, and I say it very boldly because it's the truth. It's the only guarantee in life, and that's death. It's the only one. And what I realized in this journey was that I had a near-death experience as a child in a car accident. I mean, I was dead, unconscious, in and out several times. And from that, and I recently just discovered this, I had a huge fear of death because, I mean, I had died and I had the impact and I saw it in my subconscious, it was there. And so, moving forward in my life, I was always scared of dying at, 10, 12, 20, 25. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die, until this past year. And I started to create my legacy. And then it was an acceptance thing. And I learned that I'm okay now because I'm now making a difference. And I honestly say this, and I go, if I passed away tomorrow, I'd be satisfied, fulfilled, and I would have had a meaningful life. Now, do I want to do more? Absolutely. Keep shooting for the stars. But you and I have had some conversation, not just today, but in the past, last week, 2 weeks before that, about friends in our circles. And for you, you've had 2 stories. Your friend that had the brain tumor. Today, you just told me another one, a friend of yours who's come down with cancer. My mom died at the age of 32. I met with 2 people this past year, probably in the last 8 months, that passed away within weeks of me meeting them. And you just think to yourself, okay, I have got to get on it. Like, life is passing us by. We're not getting these seconds back. And I love that because it really helps push you forward and start to live your life. And I'm so happy that we're talking about this because you really help, I think, extract this and pull it out so that people can understand, like, this is something that needs to be considered now. There's no way around it. So, you mentioned something before. I took notes on this as well, about figuring out the who, the what, and the why in this process. And can you elaborate on that for me?
So, well, the who is, who you are and who you want to have your legacy reflect as a person. That's really the who. The what is a life well lived, and how does that reflect you? And what is your vision of a life well lived? What are the elements of that you need to create? And how you do that is really thinking, reflecting on all the things that are important to you. And that really is when you think about your values and what's important to you, it requires a lot of self-reflection. And it's a journey, and it presents challenges for people. And I think it's always really important to pay attention to who you are,
right,
what you want from life, and what you want to have people share and feel from you, and then how you're going to do that is really, really critical. I recently met with someone that I worked with a few years ago, and before I went to meet with him, I went through the notes that I had from our last meeting, and when we were working together, his big question for me was, I want to know that I want my legacy to be that I will be remembered by my family 2 generations younger. That was his goal. And working through that, because it's not about money. Again, it's about how he made his family feel, and how connected, how he honored those relationships and respected those relationships, and shared all the information and the life lessons that he has learned with his children and his grandchildren, so that it would be carried on. And so when people say, oh, Grandpa John, did this or that, and he, and that's something that we like to think of as a family legacy, that you travel at this point in your life to sort of open up your perspectives, and that you stay true to the roots of the family.
Sure.
But that's a pretty powerful perspective, is because most people, doesn't matter whether you're in a textbook or a dictionary or Wikipedia, you won't be remembered past a couple of past a generation.
Right.
Unless the elements of who you are so deeply shared with those near and dear to you that they carried on.
Absolutely. This is huge. You brought out such a strong point with one self-reflection, but I know that there's probably people listening right now that are thinking to themselves, well, I don't have the best relationships with my family. So my question to you is, as part of this self-reflection process, how does somebody muster up the courage to go and heal potentially ruptured relationships in their close circles or with family and friends, so that they can start to live their legacy without being, let's say, resentful or angry, have any of those negative emotions?
Yeah, that's a good one. So I actually worked with a woman named Karen Hoyos, who is a coach on purpose. I already had a very clear perspective on what my message is because it was just bubbling out of me constantly. But in working with her, one of the things that I had to do was to go back and clean up past relationships. And it was a challenge. But a really good one. And it was amazing to me how positive I felt after clarifying and taking responsibility for my actions and for my participation in whatever misunderstanding or bad relationship that I had enabled. And that's not saying that the other person doesn't necessarily do something that's not respectful of you, but it means that how important was that misunderstanding or that miscommunication? Did it have how did it impact your life? We all screw up.
Sure.
We all make mistakes and we all say stupid things at inappropriate times. We're human.
Of course.
But with my own family, in cleaning up my relationships, which I pretty much had done a number of years ago, and probably the biggest one was with my own mother, in not understanding, realizing I was not able to understand her perspective at a particular moment in time. And that goes back to, you can only make decisions with the information you can process at a moment in time. And then when you're 15 minutes later, again, it could be you would make a different decision or say something different. And we really were able to talk about our misunderstandings and miscommunication when I took the responsibility of saying, I think I may have inadvertently misrepresented how I wanted you to feel. I really care about you and I really love you and I want our relationship to work well. And so I want to make sure that we are on the same page, and I want to take responsibility for whatever I have said or done that may have hurt you or caused friction, and talk about how we can, what it would take for us to be able to be comfortable with each other again. I didn't have that kind of a serious disconnection with my mother, but those are the kinds of things that you have to think about it. But the biggest part is just saying, I'm not going to have my legacy be that I don't speak to my family. Doesn't mean that you have to speak to them every week or every month, but that I have a bad relationship. I'm going to clean that up and just say, take the initiative and just say, okay, this is my day. It's on the calendar. I'm not going to veer from it. I'm going to actually just push myself to do the right thing, to clean up the relationship so that everybody can move on. And it's so freeing when you do that. It's an incredible feeling.
Yeah, they say that resentment is like drinking the poison and then expecting somebody else to pass away from it. And
Yeah.
that's ultimately, I think, what we're talking about here.
And it's a
Now,
waste of time.
mhm, right,
You
and we
know?
were just talking about time. I mean, we don't get that back. So let's all get on the same page with that one. Now, I want to ask another question about that because somebody might be thinking, in fact, I know I was in this position in the past. Even if I wasn't at fault for it in my own mind, is it still my responsibility to take, like you just said, I love that word, initiative, to go and try to repair it, even though I'm saying, well, I didn't do anything wrong, but yet I know that there's a beef, maybe they're upset with me. Should I be the bigger person and go, Liz, can we talk about this? Let's try to figure this out. Like, I'm here. I don't want this grudge. Is it safe to say that that's the right thing to do?
Yes.
Okay.
No
Okay.
matter what,
All
no
right.
matter what, then this, even if you feel that you were so entitled to be angry or to say something negative, negative energy only brings more negative energy. So you
Right.
have to change that into a positive.
That's so true. And so how much time would you spend trying to patch these things up or heal them? I mean, how much time would you say, I've tried once with Susie and, she's just like, no, I don't want to talk to you. And so you're like, well, I tried and give up, or do you go back again in a week and say, all right, Susie, I'm trying again. Here's, attempt number 2. Or do you just give up and say, all right, that's it. I tried. I can make peace with that at this point and then move on in your life? How does that
I
work?
think it depends on what the issues were, but because it might require more than one conversation.
Right.
But there is a point at which you say, if you have truthfully in your heart, and every person knows when they've actually, reached out that way. If you have reached out and you've put all the cards on the table, and you have come genuinely from a place of love and respect, then you can say, okay, I have done my best. I respect this person. They're not ready to hear me. Maybe someday in the future they will come back.
Right.
Then you can do that.
That's true. I know. Listen, Liz, you are on point. My gosh, I know exactly this process, and you are talking about stuff that literally will change your life. And I'm so happy that you're doing it for so many people. I believe all over the world now at this point, right? So
Yes.
let me ask you this point. I mean, at this point, are there any internal battles that you struggle with today, even though you are creating your legacy and you come from a place of abundance and fulfillment? And if so, could you tell us about one of those?
Oh, sure. I'm human.
Right, right.
So, so yeah, I have, I'm creating a new website, redoing my website, and there are content issues that have come up, and to me, it's a struggle of what the message I want to get across and what's the medium I'm going to use. So redoing my website really made me think about what are all the avenues that I have available to me that would more accurately or would definitely represent my message, because it's hard to get out there. And so sometimes I don't always want to go to a certain event, or when I know that I need to branch out and tell the story of legacy to people to help them start thinking about it. So that's probably the biggest thing is getting out there all the time. And so I make lists of every week how many people or what organizations I'm going to meet with, or what I meet with a lot of law firms. And law firms and other kinds of corporate environments can be challenging, but they're also very interesting in terms of how those people look at the issue of legacy,
Right.
and what that means to them. And the biggest the thing that makes it worth all the effort and make me want to do it, even though sometimes I kind of go, oh, I'm tired today, is that people worry about how much time they have, because we don't know. And when they start thinking about time and, oh my God, I haven't spent that much time with my kids or my wife or my friends, I haven't kept in touch. I don't know what they're thinking, what they're feeling, I don't know what they're going through right now. I've just been focused on work. And those conversations are always really rewarding, because it just starts them thinking about what they haven't done, what they could do, what they might do. And I like that.
Yeah, I read some of your stuff, and your kind of your overall mission is to get thought-provoking ideas flowing through the people that you work with, their heads. And that's, I think, what you were just talking about right there. That's such a great way to do it, right? You don't want to necessarily do the work for them. You want them to realize it for themselves, and then just go on this path and this journey where they're like, oh my God, Liz.
Yeah, actually, I can't do it for them.
Right.
I can't, because everybody's legacy is different,
mm-hmm.
And you never know whether it's somebody wants to share, maybe they don't have, I had one client who didn't have an extended family, wasn't married, and he was very concerned about making sure that he shared his business knowledge. When he started to think about, at first he thought his legacy was going to be giving money to certain kinds of charities. And then as he went through the process, he started to think, oh no, I really have to share all that I've learned in working in this business, so that somebody else can share or can have their own positive experiences. And that's how you help, because you never know what conversation you have with someone else might change their life.
Right.
Up to an even better life, more fulfilled life. You never know when that's going to happen, or what the words are exactly that you have said that will help them connect. And so for this guy, it was really about sharing all the things that he learned in finance. He was a hedge fund guy, and it was all about how he looked at stocks and how he looked at markets. And he really wanted to make sure that he had left that knowledge with other people and not taken it to the grave, because then he would have squandered it.
Sure.
Because you never know how that will impact someone else.
Yeah. And the thing too is you really are a sounding board, really like a starting point to get people to do this, because they just don't think about it. It's not in the back of their mind, right? There's so many other things happening at the same time that what you're getting people to do is a conversation that's had 50 years from now. And so it's like, hey, here, today, let's figure this out. You just said something that I love, and that's the word fulfillment. And I want to know what your definition of fulfillment is, because there's a lot, and everybody has their own interpretation of it. So I want to see what your thoughts are on that one.
On fulfillment, that's a good one. So I really feel if my life ended today, I have fulfilled all the things that were important to me. I've raised 2 daughters. I would love to see them, start really get their adult lives going. But I know I've given them the skills to be able to chart their own lives and have very thoughtful lives that they would share with their family and friends. And I have done that with my friends, certainly with, I mentioned when we were talking before, the girlfriend who had a brain tumor and had recently had a second tumor. She's, it's really important for everyone to think about who they are and what's important to them. And you have to share the ideas that you have. And I feel like I have done that, and I'd be pretty happy.
Now, is a fulfilled life a meaningful life, or are they separate? Are they independent?
I don't think they're independent. There isn't really much in life one could say is independent. I mean, we come out, we start our lives alone and we end our lives alone. Everything else is pretty much interdependent on, from one thing to another. I mean, it would be really hard to say that you could have a meaningful life and not a fulfilled life.
Right. Almost one of the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let me ask you this: what are your top 3 beliefs, and how did you discover what they are?
Let me think about that. So I really believe that life gives you challenges when you're ready for them, even if you don't think you are. So I'm divorced. When my divorce was finalized, I took my daughters to Africa, and I wanted them to understand and not be afraid, because so many people, they hear about Africa and they go, oh, that's kind of a scary place. And to me, it's just been I've traveled to over 90 countries. Africa is my favorite continent. And so I think challenges, being willing to go outside your comfort zone and facing challenges is really important. Otherwise, you really could limit yourself. I mean, you might as well stay in a padded cell, because that's probably the only safe place you could be.
Right. What does that mean? Explain to me what you mean by that. Can you give us an example of that so that people might, have some context as to how they could possibly live outside of their comfort zone and what that looks like?
So when I first started traveling for clients to places like different countries within Africa, it was definitely stressful, going to places you've never been, encountering people that are so different culturally. The food was very different. And I have a sort of a thing about trying to eat whatever is locally eaten by, whatever community I'm visiting,
right,
participating in or working with. And that takes getting out of your comfort zone, because sometimes they might eat ostrich or eland or kudu or some other kind of very gamey animal, and you have no idea what it tastes like. And so it's like, okay, I'm just going to try it. Who knows? I might really like it. And you have to be willing. Sometimes you have to force yourself.
Yeah.
And you're in an environment where, there might be insects or snakes, and you're afraid of snakes, or insects. And you have to just say, okay, I'm going to just do it. And you just forge ahead. And the beauty of that, when you face those challenges, when you face those fears, is that, and you see that it's just a fear, and you move through it, you pass through it, it's really rewarding to yourself. Like, I did it.
Right,
it's like somebody who swims a mile for the first time. I did it. It's that kind of feeling.
And you want more of it.
You want more of it.
It's like getting on the roller coaster, even though you're terrified and the ride's going to scare the crap out of you. And then what happens when you get off the ride?
You're excited.
You want to go right back and do it again. You're like, let's do this again.
Yes.
It's different. It's no different.
So challenges was one. Challenges, facing your fears. I believe living in the moment, learning how to live in the moment is really important and hard.
Yes.
Because, so at night I make a list of the things I'm going to do the next day, the priority list of what I want to accomplish. That forces me to think in the future, and it takes me out of that moment. And it also makes me reflect back as to what I have done. But as soon as I've put that down on paper or in my, calendar on my computer or my phone, then I come back to, okay, here I am right now. What am I doing right now that makes me feel good, that I need to do before I go to sleep? whether it's meditation or reading something. That's a really important thing to always come back to. I'm in the present. Or if I'm talking with someone, if after I've done it and I'm talking with someone, listening to them, hearing them, I see you, I hear you. I'm not just letting that pass in one ear and go out the other. I'm not distracted from you.
Right.
I'm with you.
I want to elaborate on that. That's so huge. I love that point. Why is that so important? Overall, and to you, why is that so important? Like, to be there and listen to somebody and connect with them, because I think this is a gift of yours, and I know this is one of the things that when we had our 15-minute moment together there at the conference, we were dialed in with each other. I mean, there was no outside noise. There was nothing else going on around us except for our conversation, and I really admire that about you. But for you, what makes you want to do that?
Because I think that's how you really get to know someone. And you can share, you can empathize, you develop empathy, you develop a stronger bond and a stronger connection. And that's what the beauty of relationships and friendships, even work relationships, is all about, is having that connection and being able to understand, because what you know helps me.
Right.
In sharing, we learn from each other, and it's this really pleasurable experience when you share with somebody, when you hear them. When you have difficulties or miscommunication with people, it's because you didn't hear them. And listening is hard sometimes because you have to tune out. You could be in a public place, in a restaurant, and you're hearing this one conversation and you're talking to somebody, and you might be hearing a third conversation or some snippet of a word that somebody said. You're not listening to the person, and cell phones, if you're on your cell phone while you're talking to somebody, you're texting and you're talking, you're not hearing that person. And people like to know that you saw them, that you heard them, that you connected with them.
Absolutely. We want to feel like they matter.
Yeah. And it's important.
You could be, let me tell you this, folks. You could be that one person that day that person comes up to that actually gives them 10 seconds, just undivided attention that could change their day. And like you said, creating a legacy, make them feel like they are important. And
so to give you a good example, so I was at a presentation, again, with Karen Hoyos, who was speaking, and I was sitting next to a young, 30-something, former Iraq war veteran I did not know how much he was struggling. I knew he was struggling. I could sense it. When we were talking to each other, he needed something I didn't have, and I didn't know what that was. I just knew that he needed to connect with Karen, that whatever his needs were, that her communication with him might be the thing that would help him resolve the things that he was going through. And it was hard because there were a lot of people. And afterwards, I was like, before she leaves, I'm going to make sure that he gets to talk to her one-on-one rather than in a group of people. And I managed to make that happen. And afterwards, she was like, thank you for making me, have the opportunity to talk to this young man, because he was thinking about committing suicide.
Wow.
And now he's not, he's going to stay with his friend, and he's not going to go off on his own, and his friend hadn't realized how far along his buddy was. But it's like, you never know when something might change someone's life.
And I will take that a step further too, bringing your concept of challenging yourself and doing the uncomfortable and connecting with people. Connect with strangers. I mean, I'm talking absolute strangers. And that's one of those situations where you can extend yourself in a way where it's not threatening. I think, we're brought up as kids, and mommy and daddy always tell you don't talk to strangers. And that's, so we have this, I'm not kidding. It's this programming in our brains where we're like, and I deal with it all the time, nightly. I do work down the strip, and I'm around people from all over the globe. And I have an opportunity to connect every day. And people are like, how are you so happy in this? Because I connect with people every single day. And I don't care who they are, where they're from, what they look like. If they stink, they're getting my full undivided attention. If they come ask me a question, I'm going to be there present with them. Like you said, listening to what their problem is. And people don't realize how simple that is. And in the context of, if it's not threatening your health or your life, and in 99.9% of the cases, it's not, unless you're walking down a back alley in a really bad neighborhood and you're asking for trouble. Put yourself in the line. Try something out of your comfort zone and really establish that connection with the human being. And I tell people this too. People don't realize that when we have true, honest connections with other human beings, there's a chemical that's released in our brain, and it's like you're on a drug. And because of that, the joy that comes from it is unparalleled. And that is just social bonding and social interaction. And so once again, an opportunity every single day to talk to somebody that you don't know and push yourself up spiritually and build your legacy. I mean, it's so simple. It's just people don't do it because it's like, oh, I don't care about this guy because he's not my friend. He is your friend. He's a human being, damn it. Appreciate that person and talk to them. This gets me fired up. This seriously gets, that's why I wanted to do this interview so much with you, because it's like you and I were talking about this, and it's so important, and you really are driving that home too.
Well, when you think about living your legacy every single day, and what you just said about connecting with people that you don't know and don't talk to strangers, that's why the whole subway thing for me is so powerful. I'm not in danger. I mean, some people would say, oh my God, the subway is so scary.
Right.
But it's not.
Every New Yorker's on it, right? Every day.
Yeah. But it's so important when you think that every single day as you walk down the street, wherever you live, or if you talk to your new neighbor, like, for example, think about if you have a new neighbor that happens to wear a burqa, are you going to be afraid of that person and think that, oh my gosh, there must be a terrorist? Or are you just going to say, hey, just want to welcome you to the neighborhood, love to get to know you, I don't know if you like to drink tea or coffee, but, I'd love to have you come over or something. Or you just have some connection. You feel so much better, and you share with people, and it just changes the energy all around you. It will change the energy of your community and make it all more positive. And this world has so many negative things coming at us every single day, every hour. Why not make it positive? Like, I don't watch the news much.
No.
Because it's so negative. There are a few, I occasionally I'll watch the CBS morning news, because they put good stories mixed in with current events or whatever. But most of the other channels is just awful. And I don't want that negative energy floating around me. And I think that it's harder for a lot of other people to see that negative energy sucks life out of you, and it makes you more fearful.
Listen, if there's one person that's listening to you talk about this and hearing this, then we're making a difference, really, because they can take what you've said, and they can go next time they get in a cab or go down to the market or go on the subway, wherever they live, they can implement something like that, and they can see the reward, because you don't get it unless you do it. And something else that I do all the time, like if I'm walking by somebody just on the street, I purposely stare at them. I purposely try to make eye contact with them, so that when they make eye contact with me, there goes the smile, there goes the how are you, and they're just like, they're always caught off guard because they don't expect it from anybody. And there are plenty of times, and more than half the time, they don't even look at you. They're just like this, straight down, walking this way. And I'm like, wake up, people, wake up.
Heads up. But also, I mean, Manny, I totally appreciate and respect all of your work, in inspiring people and helping people understand that they have a journey to walk as well. And it takes a lot of us to really get messages out, because you never know what type of message will help people understand what their opportunities are. And so your work is equally important and prophetic.
Right. Thank you. I really appreciate that. You know, this show is everything, and having amazing folks like you on as guests, you know, again, connection. We were strangers less than a month ago, mind you, right? I mean, we had no idea who we were in each other's worlds, and now we're going to have a lasting relationship for the rest of time, and
absolutely,
and continue to help more people. And you know, that's life. I wish people could just listen to that part right there, realize what's happening right here in front of them, and take it by the horns and go out and live their life. You know, so because you're such a people person and you do all these amazing things in public places, I want to know what fascinates you about people. What is it?
They all have unique stories. And I love hearing their stories. You know, you never know what from someone else's life story will inspire you to do something that you haven't done before.
Right.
That might make you just really happy. It's just, I love hearing their stories. It's fascinating because it's our history. It's how the world has come to be. It's really important to participate in it, to share, to love the people around you. I love hearing stories.
I agree. I think you're spot on with that. So what does a woman like yourself do to find inner happiness?
Oh, meditate, think a lot, read a lot. You know, I have always been a very spiritual person. I'm not a traditional religious person, because but I really believe it's important to think about where you fit in the world, what you contribute. Everybody has something to contribute. Everybody. There is no one that people will say like, oh, you know, I don't really have anything that's, you know, people would want to hear. I'm like, oh, that's so wrong. Your story is really powerful, and it really and it will educate people about something else that they haven't experienced before, because you can't have every single experience that there is to have in life. Not one person is going to have every single experience or the same reaction to those experiences and to those challenges. And so hearing the stories and you know, thinking about them and reflecting on them, I reflect a lot on what I've learned every day. And it really, it's so much pleasure. Yeah. And I think, you know, just knowing that I've helped people imagine a life other than the one that they're living is a good thing. And it's an important thing.
Right, right. You've made almost upwards of $100 million of contributions of other people's money into causes like this, philanthropic, charitable. And so in that sense, it's investments in other things. My question to you is, what has been the best investment that you've ever made in yourself?
That's a good question. Best investment is realizing that I had this, talking about legacy has been building in me for years. And so reaching out to people, to the people that I've worked for, the clients, and most of them don't, you know, they like their privacy, but but just having conversations with them about what's been important to them. People like being lucky enough to have a really good working relationship and friend relationship with Karen Hoyos, with Bill Walsh, talking to those people and investing time with those people and those relationships, as well as all of the clients I've ever worked with. That's been a huge investment for me.
Right.
And really what that's amounted to is time. I've invested time in getting to know and understanding the stories and the messages that I could learn from.
Right.
And
wow,
it's been priceless.
Well, I want to take the time now to acknowledge you for your contribution and the legacy that you are creating for yourself. And I know that in hearing your stories and what you're going through and the friends that you have in your close circle, some of the issues at hand with that, you seem to stay true to giving your time and being of service and lending your heart and your soul to be the very best version of yourself. And the way that we connected, you really stood out in the sense that I value you as a person because you do the little things and you're willing to step out of your comfort zone because of that and help change not just, a charitable cause or a philanthropic cause. You're willing to go the extreme lengths and travel the countries and find people who not necessarily are in a position to have the better things in life and really extend yourself to being there for them. And that takes a special person. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate you for that, because I know with absolute certainty that you are in fact making the changes in this world that we need to see. I mean, the smiling person that walks down the street that does respond, I think could have come from you. And the more people we have like you that get out there every day, that help people almost reverse engineer their life and start seeing the benefits of it today, that's when we start to change the world. And so for that, I thank you. And I'm really, really excited about this relationship and for having you on today to share your message. And I really look forward to watching you continue to make a huge difference in this world and a massive impact. So for that, Liz, thank you so much for everything. Honestly, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you.
Thank you very much, Manny. And I feel exactly the same way about you. And it does go back to, we had an instant connection when we met. And again, because there was already light there.
Right.
And I really, really appreciate this opportunity to share with you and with your audience. And I look forward to sharing a lot more as we both go forward.
Absolutely. We're on this journey together now.
Yes, absolutely.
we just locked arms and now like, hey, let's go. Kind of like they do in the old movies, and they're just dancing along down the path. And
exactly.
We're almost finished. I don't finish off with that. I do hit you with two final questions before I let you go, because I certainly want to be mindful of your time. But because we're talking about this legacy thing, and I think you inspired this change in this podcast, by the way. I do now know that this came from you, because I have it written down here in my notes. And I wanted to kind of switch it up a little bit and change up the questions in the new year. And so it is your last day, and it is. And we're getting ready to speak your eulogy. So what is it that you want that person to read off on your eulogy about the life that you've lived and the person that you've become and the impact that you've made on the world? What's that going to say?
I'll just give you a very short version of that.
Okay.
But it's that I loved, I lived, I participated, I shared all that I could, and I cared about the world, and I cared about my family and my friends.
Right.
And I heard them, I saw them, I shared with them, I gave them what knowledge I had that could help them.
Right. Amazing. So real quick, let's do a quick recap, because I love this legacy stuff. Top 3 things that you need to do in order to start building your legacy today.
You need to reflect on what's important to you, what your values are, and what knowledge. So that's one. Number 2, what knowledge you have that can help someone else, because we all have it. I don't care if for example, say you're a chef or a cook, and you have all these incredible recipes that you've been squirreling away. If you don't share them on that last day or before that, it goes with you. And all of that wonderful food, because food is such an important part of how we share our time with people, you've squandered that. Or if you are a plumber and you have all of that knowledge of how you can fix things, and someone else who's coming up behind you hasn't learned, half of it, why not share it?
Right.
Share that information, that knowledge. Or if you're a banker, share how you can use the value of money to change how the abundance that you have in your own life. And I guess the last thing is that you have to think about your dreams. What do you want to have reflected you at the end of your life? What is your dream? And that will help you, again, come back to where you are today and figure out what that roadmap needs to look like, what the blueprint that you will create to get you there. But it really always comes back to reflecting and sharing.
That's it right there. So anybody that's listening, it's your time to go out and start to create your legacy, make the difference in the world that you want to make. Because let me tell you something, you can do it. And I'm sure Liz can say she was an ordinary girl from an ordinary place, just like the rest of us, human beings doing what they knew best in life.
Yep.
Same over here, But I'm just like you. We're just like each other, and there's nothing that's holding us back from doing what we want to do.
And nothing should hold anyone back. It's their own chains that they put on that holds them back.
Yep, so true. And so the last question that I have for you is the one that I always ask, and that is, what is your one message of inspiration?
Live your life and share it with someone, with anyone, with everyone.
I love that. So simple. There it is. It's simple, right? That's
and it should be simple. All the basic things that you have to think about, they are simple. Loving people, sharing with them, caring about them, seeing them, right. Hearing them. Those are simple things. It's important.
It's called the KISS method. Keep it simple, silly. Not stupid, because you're not stupid. You're being silly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Silly. So everyone, Liz has some amazing stuff here for you today. Please take all those fantastic little nuggets that she's talked about and go out and do something with it. It's your time. It's your turn. Liz, thank you so much for being here with me today. And
thank you, Manny.
I look forward to continuing the journey with you.
Thank you. I look forward to it as well.
Thank you.